Hey friends, welcome. My name is Lauren. Today I am going to be sharing some Abeka myths. If you're new here, I am homeschooling mom. It is our 5th year of homeschooling. I have 3 girls, 1st grade, 3rd grade, and 5th grade. And I myself have actually used Abeka. I used it all growing up from preschool through 12th grade, and I have used it in our homeschool in various ways throughout the last several years that we have been homeschooling. So I'm pretty familiar with Abeka. I mostly use it for the younger years. We have not hit that middle school and high school age yet. Most of this will be geared toward the younger grades, but I think that some of the older grades could, the points that I'm making, they could apply to many of those grades as well. So let's get started with some Abeka homeschool myths that I think we need to debunk. Abeka myth number 1, it is very expensive and you have to have a lot of money or be rich or, have a large homeschool budget in order to be able to afford that. And I will say that is absolutely not true. I do not spend thousands of dollars or even hundreds and hundreds of dollars on Abeka material. There are many different ways you can go about doing Abeka and doing it successfully without having to spend a lot of money. I made an entire video on that, and I will link that down below in the description that you can check out that so that you can, I give all my tips and tricks to doing Abeka on a budget. So I just want to put that there. That is its own category because I do hear that a lot, that it is very expensive. All right, myth number 2, Abeka is really dry and dull and boring. And I think that that may be true for some people, but I think it works really well for others. I don't think that in homeschool, in life in general, but specifically for homeschool, for the sake of what we're talking about today, you can make very cut and dry, black or white, all or nothing opinions when it comes to curriculum and homeschooling in general. So what might be dry for someone might actually be really interesting for someone else. And I think that you have to just actually kind of look and see the samples and, watch YouTube videos and flip throughs and that, so that you can get a good idea, especially like for the younger years for their science and their history. It's actually their science especially, we use their 1st and 2nd grade science. It's actually pretty engaging, and my girls liked it and preferred, my younger daughters really enjoyed that, and they preferred that traditional science more than some of the more Charlotte Mason and relaxed type of sciences that we have done throughout the years. I think that people are quick to dismiss it without actually taking the time to look and see if it's something that might actually work for them. Kind of along that point is that it is traditional, so therefore it's boring. And again, this does not have to be boring. It doesn't have to be Abeka. My girls really enjoy it. Again, there's different curriculum that they have used, whether it's language or math or whatever, that they really just wanted to come back and do Abeka. And it wasn't because I forced them or said this is what we're doing, that this is just kind of what they prefer. Not every kid wants something flowery and super hands-on and super, a really deep heavy literature-based program. Some kids want just cut, dry, to the point, and that's okay. And we can listen to them and listen to what works best for them and how they're going to learn best. So again, yes, it may be to the point, but I think it could work really well for more people than you realize. Number 3, that Abeka is very challenging. So I will say that Abeka is pretty academically rigorous. Depending especially on like what part of the country you're from. Some it's more like online with, like public school standards. Some it's more ahead, it's way ahead. Again, because all the different school systems have different standards. So that, that is hard to compare across the board. Generally speaking, it is going to be a little bit more of a challenging and rigorous program. However, that doesn't mean that you have to go by every single thing and do every single lesson the way that they have it recommended or the way that they have it laid out. You don't necessarily have to get every test in test book, quiz book, activity book, the lesson plans, and the charts that go along with it. You don't need to do all that. You can simply say, hey, I want to do their 3rd grade science. Let's just take the science book, read it, and maybe do some of the activities. You don't need to test and quiz and do all of those extra things that come with it. Just because it comes with it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it. So especially for like their language arts, there's many components to the language arts, especially when the kids are younger. For like their phonics program, there's all different types of charts and flashcards, and there's very detailed lesson plans. How they do a lot of the lesson plans is for a classroom. Now, even though they do have specific homeschool lesson plans, I personally think that they kind of take those from the classroom and just kind of basically copy it, because there is still a lot of work to do. I personally don't do every single thing for every single lesson. I pick and I choose what works, what I want to focus on with my kids, what they need to, you know what, they have this part done and mastered, so we don't need to keep rehashing that, or no, we need to keep reviewing. And you kind of pick and choose what is going to work best for you. You can still be extremely successful using Abeka. Now, some people say, should I just use their workbooks? I personally think, especially if you have younger kids and you're using their workbooks to teach your kids to read, you probably need something a little bit more, just because workbooks aren't going to be quite enough. I have a few videos on that I will link below too, if you're interested in like what all should I get, and you know what's necessary and what's not. I've explained that in multiple videos, so I'm not going to do that here, but I am saying that you don't need to do every single thing that it says written down. If there's 10 steps that it says for you to do today for the lesson, you don't need to do all those, and you can still be really successful. You can cut the lesson, you can make the lesson be very manageable and very doable, especially again for those younger kids that you have in mind. And again, for older kids, there's not quite as many charts and flashcards and things like that, but the lessons actually are pretty straightforward and pretty to the point. It's just about all the extra work that they're recommending you do, and it's just there if you want to do this. I think of it as like a buffet table. When you have a buffet, you're not forced to eat every single thing from the buffet. So think of it like that, is that they are offering a selection of, these are exercises that are recommended for this lesson, and you can do what you want to focus on, what your kid needs more work on, and what you have time for, and what you have the energy for, and all of that. You have to factor in all of that. And so again, I have videos on how I do lessons and how I break it down. So if you're interested and you want to learn more, you can check those out as well. The next myth is that if you use Abeka, that your child will be doing work for hours and hours, and they're going to have an 8-hour school day. And that is absolutely not true at all. Again, you can take Abeka and you can do it to the nth degree, and you can do every single thing that is assigned, and it may take a while, probably is actually, if you do everything. But I am such a strong believer and advocate for, if you couldn't tell by now, just making things your own, as far as, just because we have a history book and it comes with tests and quizzes and all these projects and all of these other things, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it. Maybe your child does like taking tests and quizzes, so you can say, okay, well, we'll take the history test, but we're not going to do the science test, or we will do most of the writing assignments, but we will have Fridays off, or we'll do the writing assignments 3 days a week. You can definitely, absolutely make it flexible to fit your needs, and that is with any homeschool curriculum really, but Abeka is included in that. And I think that, again, it gets a rep in the homeschool community as all those things that I just mentioned, but I think it actually can be really good and work for a lot of kids. I think a lot of people just, again, kind of dismiss it and don't think about it. They may hear things from, a fellow homeschooler, or that it didn't work for them. But again, it's not so much that following every single step of the law. It's kind of thinking outside the box. How can I make this my own? And is this working for my kids? Those are kind of things to ask yourself if your children are really liking it, but you just feel like it's a little bit overwhelming, or you feel like there's too much to do. Don't feel the need to do it all. It's okay. They still will get a really good and quality education, and it's okay. And that, especially for like their younger kids, for their younger years, their phonics education and curriculum is really, really, really good, really, really solid. So those are my kind of Abeka myths. If you have any others that you know of or that you've heard of that I did not cover, I'm sure I'm not covering them all, leave them down below in the comments so that we can have a little discussion and so that you can help other homeschool moms out who are probably maybe wondering the same thing and kind of wondering if Abeka should work for them or will work for them. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Homeschooling mom to 3 girls, a first grader, a third grader, and a first grader.